You're now listening to It's Easy Breezy Sports and Athletes Podcast, and I'm your host, Danny T. Today's interview is brought to you by iHeartRadio, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at It's Easy Breezy Sports. Right now, we're going to go ahead and jump straight into this interview. So where are you originally from, Janae?
I'm from Folsom, California, which is really close to Sacramento.
Okay. And growing up, was sports always something of yours that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I have an older brother, and he played soccer, and so I originally started playing soccer because I wanted to be like him. And then also my parents were always into sports, and my dad is a huge soccer person, so that's kind of why our family kind of turned into a soccer family. But I basically only played soccer competitively. That was the only sport I did growing up. I did like maybe some volleyball and a couple other sports recreationally, but nothing serious. So probably at age 4, it was soccer, and that was it.
When did people notice that you were really good? At what age?
Well, I'm very short, and so I actually was repeatedly told how I would never really make it in soccer or that I was too small. And so it wasn't really until maybe I was 13, 14 where I started growing, where my maybe height, strength, and all of that kind of started to even out. But then my soccer abilities was made greater. So then once the other stuff evened out, then I started standing out. So I'd probably say around 13, 14.
Was speed always something of yours?
I would probably say quickness over speed. Just maybe my ability to react and ability of what I could do when I had the ball, not necessarily just like an outright sprint or something like that.
Is that what you enjoy, having the ball?
Yeah, I definitely am a player who likes it at their feet, not into space or any other way. I believe that most things is what happens when people aren't looking. And from very young, probably 9 or 10, I always begged my dad to take me to a park like every day just so that I could do stuff on my own. Yeah. And it was always stuff like that, ball skill stuff, just maybe practicing my first touch, quality, technical ability. That was definitely a huge thing for me. So then, like I said, once the other stuff evened out, like strength and stuff, then my technical abilities were kind of always what stood out because I practiced them so much, but also something that I still practice today because you just have to keep practicing.
So in high school, was that also when you were a part of the U17 Women's World Cup?
Yes, so that was my junior year, and I actually missed 12 weeks of school my junior year for either camps or the World Cup itself, and that was definitely an interesting decision because junior year is probably the hardest year of high school, and so it was a lot of independent study, trust from my principal and teachers that I would do my work. But yeah, so we had qualifiers in October of my junior year, 2013, and then the World Cup was in March of 2014.
How do you think you performed during that time?
I think that I was only getting better, so at that time that was definitely the best I had played, and I was just continuing to grow and maybe discovering what I was capable of. I went into the tournament knowing I was going to start, but also knowing that if there was a sub, I would probably be the first sub out because of just that was just how I felt.
Right.
And then leaving it, I felt that like they had to keep me on the field. So it was just like a constant growth and just learning that I can do more maybe than I believed I could do. And I ended up with the most goals and assists for my personal team and the best goal of the tournament. So it was just like crazy things that happened that I would never thought were capable. But during the tournament, it was just more of always working 100% and just trying to grow. And I wasn't thinking about trying to achieve those things, but it just happened.
Deciding on college, how was that transition for you?
I actually committed to college my sophomore year.
Okay.
So I had known for a while where I was going to go. So the transition was more of deciding what kind of player I wanted to be in college and how much work I was going to put in to be that player, because I knew going in the roster was going to be around 30 girls, only 11 people play. So did I want to be a freshman who got playing time? Did I just want to maybe learn my first year? It's just something that you have to decide, because then you have to put in the work to get there. So yeah, the transition was definitely difficult for, I think, me and a lot of players who are used to being the best on their club team or the best in their area, and then they go to a really good college team and everyone was the best in their area or their club team. So it's definitely a different environment, but also really amazing to be able to play with just everyone being so good. So I think for me, it was always just trying to enjoy and learn and work hard, knowing that I was playing with all elite players rather than trying to compare myself to where I stood among the team.
Is there anything that might help maybe during recovery?
The big change from high school to college is definitely the speed of play and the strength. So I had never done weight sessions and things like that. So that was definitely a big transition, which changes a lot of things. You know, it changes the weight you personally carry, and then how you eat. I have to eat more, for example. I definitely am a huge person on rest. I realized that I needed to get at least 9 hours of sleep if I was going to perform my best. It was something that I had learned, so then I had to change maybe my schedule in the day to make sure I was able to get that. So yeah, definitely recovery and things that you do off the field started mattering a lot more to me. I couldn't just show up, maybe barely eaten, barely slept, and still perform really well like maybe I could have done in high school. It was completely different. You always had to worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also just fitness is a huge thing too. I had never run so much without the ball, maybe, until I got to college, and that's something that has continued. I definitely do not way more, but a lot more things without the ball just to keep my fitness up, because the higher the level, the faster the speed of play is, the more fit maybe everyone else around you is. So yeah, you definitely have to change how you treat your body.
Yeah.
Off the field.
And most recently, you've signed your first professional contract.
Yes.
with is Club Americana?
Club América, yes.
Club America. And how was that feeling signing that contract?
Yeah, it definitely is almost unexplainable, just because I have this thing when I was 13. I wrote a list of goals I wanted to achieve, and it included being captain of my club team. And then I wanted to play in a World Cup, and then I wanted to play D1 soccer. And the very last one I wrote is to be a professional soccer player. And so one, it's crazy to have achieved that, but then it's also like made me realize I didn't think past that. And it's not something where you just check off your list and then you're like, wow, I did it. It is something I've never experienced. It's a 24/7 job. I don't know how to explain it, but basically anything I do, I feel like it will affect now my playing, and that's something that I've had to transition to. It's definitely a job. It's not just like in college you had school and you had your social life, and your coaches understood that. So there's definitely a disconnect between things, and now I feel like my whole life is around the team. So it's definitely a lot different, but it's also like the greatest feeling because it's something that I was always working towards, and my family's always been really supportive, so it was a big thing for them too, because they knew that that was the dream I always wanted to live, even if it meant living thousands of miles away from home.
Right. Did you sign your contract at home, or did you have to travel?
I actually was in Europe at the time because I had graduated from college, and my graduation present was a Europe with my dad. He planned this trip around soccer games, so we actually watched a soccer game in every major league in Europe in different countries, and we were negotiating the contract during the trip. And then when we finally agreed to it or whatever, I signed it in a hotel in Italy. And then we got back from Europe the 24th of December, and I flew to Mexico City the 22nd, and I started training the 29th. So it was a very fast transition,
Right.
and everything, but yeah, that's basically how it worked out. So I had been living there since the 29th of December, um, and then the whole quarantine thing happened, so obviously things were different, but yeah, that's basically how it worked out.
And you were able to get a few games under your belt, right?
Yes, when the season started, my eligibility was still transferring through and everything, so I was not able to suit up for the first game, and then the second game, it was an away game versus a team called Cruz Azul, and I made my debut by subbing in, and we ended up winning the game 2-1, and I had made the assist for the second goal, so it was really crazy, and my dad was able to fly to Mexico for that game, so I got to experience that with him. It's really cool. He's from Mexico. That's why I'm able to play in the league, because you have to be a Mexican citizen, and I'm a dual citizen. I'm Mexican and American. My mom is not Hispanic at all, so I'm very mixed. So it's great.
Do you have a preferred shoe that you wear on the field?
I normally always stick to Nike Mercurials or Vapors, but in college it was different because I transferred to UC Davis, and I transferred from a Nike school to an Adidas school. So my Adidas and Nike choices are obviously different. But for now, I am Nike because that's what the club is sponsored by. So, yep.
Nice. How does it feel to have your name on the back of the jersey? I was searching for one. I can't find one. I need one. But how does it feel?
That's pretty weird, especially when my family and friends started buying jerseys, and then I would see them or whatever with pictures, and would be loss of words, and then among that, then there are fans, many fans for the club. And so then when I start seeing them with jerseys with my name, people that, don't know me at the same sense of my friends and family, but still chose to purchase a jersey with my name on it, then it just got really surreal. And
I've seen when you were at training, was there some footage there as well?
Yes.
And then you were referring to getting to play with the coach again that you reunited with?
Yes, he was my coach for the World Cup in the U17.
How's that?
Yes, that was definitely one of the main reasons why I chose to sign with this club. I felt like I knew all the good and all the bad of him. Sometimes you commit to a team, a college, or a professional team, and you only know the good because they're trying to sell, their club and they want you there. And then you find out maybe that the coach is a yeller, or the coach, you hate the practices or something like that. So it was a good feeling knowing I already knew what the practices were going to be like. I've already seen him at his angriest, and it was all things that I knew I could develop and handle. And then one of the biggest things is I actually didn't start learning Spanish until I was on the team to go to the World Cup. And so my Spanish is not the best, and I knew that he was going to be helpful, accommodating, and the positive type I needed to not feel maybe less or not feel bad. Obviously, it's something that I have to work on every day and something that I'm committed to, and I need to be able to speak with my teammates and all that stuff. But it was also a really nice feeling to know that he was going to be accommodating. Like if I needed further explanation, then he could explain to me in English. While other clubs, either maybe the coaches aren't bilingual, maybe they just aren't accepting of that type of situation. So that was definitely really, really huge for me and one of the main reasons why I wanted to play for him again.
What's next? I know we're in quarantine right now, but what's next for you in your professional career?
Well, this season works from January to June and then July to December. There's 2 seasons in every calendar year. So my initial thoughts were put my head down, work hard, learn, and develop. And then by my second season, that I could start maybe being a top player or someone who was always on the field. And obviously with the quarantine, I don't really know how they're going to choose to finish the league. We were about halfway through the season when they suspended it. And so I don't know if they're either going to cancel it and just start the next season or if they're going to finish this season. There's no way of knowing. So I think for now, I know I just want to continue to work hard and then eventually achieve the next goal I had, which was to be a top player and to, earn a lot of playing time. So I know that I wouldn't be satisfied with leaving professionally until I had achieved that goal. And then after that, like future, because I don't know how long I will be playing, I've always just wanted to go back into working for younger athletes, and whether that was maybe for the NCAA and working with college athletes, or if that's even younger and helping youth athletes develop. That's definitely my passion, is teaching and wanting to stay within sports. So that's the plan.
And one last thing I definitely wanted to cover. You are the founder of the Christmas charity tournament?
Oh, so yes. My brother and I started a nonprofit organization called Jerseys and Cleats for Kids, and it's where we collect gently used or new soccer equipment, and then we ship them to countries in need or organizations in need. We often ship them with church groups that were going for trips in these countries. And then every year I hosted a indoor soccer tournament, and it was free for everyone to play. I just asked that every player bring a brand new toy because it was around Christmas time. And then after the tournament, my family and I would deliver the toys to various shelters, hospitals, and children who maybe weren't going to receive presents that year. So volunteering and giving back is a huge thing. If anything, my parents always taught us growing up was to always give 100% everything you do, and then to always give back. And so those are definitely the two things I always try to live by. And something that I've been trying to figure out how I can do in Mexico, I always thought about maybe holding some type of clinic for girl players who maybe don't have access to a practice, something like that. I really want to get started because in Mexico it's a lot different. Mainly, only boys get opportunities to play soccer or play competitively, and so I'm trying to make a difference for that for girls in Mexico as well.
And if anyone from the audience was trying to help volunteer, how could they find you on social media, Janae?
My Instagram and my Twitter are both Janae99, but it's a bit different. This Instagram is Janae, Janae, and then MAE99, and then Twitter is J, and then MAE99, so it just takes off one of the A's. And then those are the two social media things I mainly use and try to use to connect with people.
Well, that's going to do it for today's show. For more information about our guests, you can head over to itseasybreezysports.com, and please be sure to follow us on Instagram at